Hi, I'm Rob Swank, and welcome to the Swank Side of Life. This week, our podcast will focus on the education rights of male and female youth in Pakistan. I would also like you to consider how important these factors are in supporting the education for the future leaders of this struggling nation. Let's go to Pakistan's educational report card. Per the test article, Pakistan's elite faces up to the future of reforms. It states, quote, Pakistan ranks 163rd in the United Nations Index of 177 countries' education systems. Only 62% of the primary-age children attend school. Government schools are overcrowded and under-resourced, and teachers are often political appointees with guaranteed jobs for life. Many simply choose not to turn up. Half of Pakistan's adult population are illiterate. In an article appearing in The Economist titled, School Reform, Pakistan is the home for the most forensic education reforms in the world. It states, quote, Pakistan's education has long been atrocious, unquote. We will also use the Economist article to touch on some other stats. Those that start in the state-sponsored schools are currently tend to drop out by the age of 9. Pakistan is seeing that those who start public schools, only 3% graduate from the 12th grade. They are also stating that poor girls in particular are least likely to attend. More importantly, the article states that the curriculum and teaching is frightening, that only 50% or less than 50% within 5 years are able to read and write. And in rural Pakistan, less than 50% of the 8 and 9-year-olds can subtract 25 from 54. And last, many parents are moving away from the public school system. At the time of the article, they're stating that 1/3 of the schools are now private schools. Let's turn to some thoughts on the whys to all of this. In reading the report from Nadia Nabiwala of the Wilson Center, it states, quote, it does not come down to how much money the country spends, but how the money is spent. Pakistan needs to spend better, not simply spend more, unquote. In my search for answers, I find the reasons for the struggling school system are vast. I feel poverty is probably one of the biggest factors. Currently, Pakistan's families are generally extended family group oriented, and if that child is needed to help with the harvest or work in the home, the poorer the family, the more likely the child will be pressured by that family group to stay home and work instead of attending school. Another big issue I see, according to the same article in The Economist, have been 867 attacks by Islamist terrorists on education institutions in Pakistan. For this article, this is per the Global Terrorism Database ran by the University of Maryland. It also states that hundreds of girls' schools were closed by the Taliban. Let's look at teaching methods and types of schools. The kicker for me here is there are some low-cost private schools which are costing as little as half as much as the public school system. The students are coming out of some of these schools at 2 grades ahead of the public school children. In an article by the International Crisis Group, Executive Summary, it states, quote, to counter the challenge from private schools and madrasas and religious schools of Islamic parties and foundations, which fill the gaps of a dilapidated public education sector but contribute to the religious extremism and sectarian violence, the state will have to do far more than just increase the number of schools and teachers. Curriculum reform is essential and overdue. Provincial governments must ensure that textbooks and teachers no longer convey the intolerant religious discourse and distorted narrative based on hatred of imagined enemies, local and foreign. We have another consideration I'd like you guys to take into account as we consider Pakistan's education. I also see the need to consider an important backdrop with some conditions which should go into your survey of the education system. To help us grasp this picture, we can look at the book I Am Malala in chapter 15, where Malala goes into leaving SWAT Valley. If you recall, when the military came into SWAT Valley to clear out the Taliban, Most of the inhabitants were forced out of their homes, fleeing for their safety. All those youth and their families were displaced. That is, about 2 million people were forced out. They were living from pillar to post, with no real guess as if they would be at home to go back to. They had no idea where they're going to sleep, eat, or drink that next day for the most part. This is not an unlikely prospect in Pakistan. Both for the reasons stated in Malal's book are due to some of the natural disasters that they face in Pakistan about every 4 to 5 years. That is, if these youth do not have food to eat, a place to stay, a warm bed to sleep, among other effects, to me it becomes a question if they will really be able to go to school and be able to learn much. Some thoughts as we wrap things up. Where I live, I am seeing urban schools selling their report cards. Here we have seen the State Board of Education close some of these schools and then reopen them as state-sponsored schools. I will state that the jury is still out as to how positive this action is. I will also say that it's been one way to break the union issues and school district struggles with getting rid of what we call in the military roads, aka retired on active duty. In contrast, I see a few similarities in our local school struggles and with the issues we're seeing in Pakistan. I must state, nothing near to the same scale as Pakistan, but there are familiar aspects. One big difference in the U.S. is those new schools hire whom they need, but they still have to teach the required subjects. They are actually under more of a microscope than the former public schools as far as their report cards. In closing, Pakistan's struggles are many and diverse. The fix to help Pakistan will need to be varied, but must cover a large mix of cultures and an enormous population. I do not currently see a perfect path for Pakistani education any more than I see an easy fix for the education system where I live. Last, personally, I feel there are variables we can't appreciate from our armchair views of the situation in Pakistan. I hope this little podcast has helped you to look at Pakistan's struggles with the education for their youth. Thanks for riding along with the Swank Side of Life. And again, I am Rob Swank and want to thank you for tuning in.